Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity Campus will also unveil its first orbital rocket Vikram 1 with capability to launch satellites to orbit. India's Defence Minister to co-chair the third India-Indonesia Defence Ministers dialogue with his Indonesian counterpart in New Delhi, focus on regional security and bilateral defence collaboration. Death toll in massive Hong Kong apartment fire rises to 44. Hundreds more remain unaccounted. 3 suspects arrested. Efforts on war footing to tackle the blaze. US President Donald Trump calls shooting of 2 National Guard troops act of terror. Orders to deploy 500 additional National Guard troops. Suspect taken into custody. And India ranks 6th in the 2025 Deaflympics in Tokyo. Its best ever performance, winning a total of 20 medals. Medals include 9 gold, 7 silver and 4 bronze. Our top story, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity Campus on Thursday via video conferencing. The Prime Minister will also unveil Skyroot's first orbital rocket Vikram 1 with capability to launch satellites to orbit. The state-of-the-art facility will have around 200,000 square feet workspace for designing, developing, integrating and testing multiple launch vehicles with a capacity to build 1 orbital rocket every month. Skyroot is India's leading private space company, founded by Pawan Chandana and Bharat Dhaka, both alumni of Indian Institutes of Technology and former scientists of ISRO turned entrepreneurs. In November 2022, Skyroot launched its suborbital rocket Vikram S, becoming the first Indian private company to launch a rocket to space. The rapid rise of private space enterprises is a testament to the success of the transformative reforms carried out by the government in the last few years, reinforcing India's leadership as a confident and capable global space power. Shifting focus, President Draupadi Murmu will address the inaugural session of the 3rd edition of the Chanakya Defence Dialogue 2025 in New Delhi on Thursday. The 2-day event will bring together national and international experts to deliberate on defence reforms, technological transformation, civil-military integration and India's emerging security priorities in the run-up to Viksit Bharat 2047. The Chanakya Defence Dialogue is being organised under the theme Reform to Transform, Sashakt, Surakshit or Viksit Bharat. Moving on, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to co-chair the 3rd India-Indonesia Defence Ministers dialogue with his Indonesian counterpart Syafri Syamsuddin in New Delhi. During the meeting, the 2 ministers will exchange views on regional security and multilateral issues, as well as explore avenues for further deepening bilateral defence collaboration. This 2-day visit of the Indonesian Defence Minister underscores the growing momentum in India-Indonesia defence cooperation and reflects the commitment on both sides to further deepen and expand the partnership. Civilizational ties between India and Indonesia go back thousands of years. Both nations are maritime neighbours, sharing cultural, civilizational and historical linkages that can be traced back to several centuries. All right, moving on, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, Ganesh Kumar, is all set to assume the chairship of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance for the year 2026. The Chief Election Commissioner will take over the chairship of IIDEA on December 3rd this year in the meeting of the Council of Member States of International IDEA to be held in Stockholm, Sweden. As chair, he will be presiding over all council meetings during the year 2026. India, a founding member of IIDEA, has consistently contributed to the organization's governance, democratic discourse and institutional initiatives. Some more stories. India's Ministry of External Affairs held its weekly press briefing in New Delhi on Wednesday, reacting to the illegal detention of an Arunachal Pradesh resident at Shanghai Airport. MEA spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal affirmed that Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India, stressing that China's denial cannot alter this indisputable fact.
We want to say that Arunachal Pradesh is an integral and inalienable part of India, and this is a fact which is self-evident. No amount of denial by the Chinese side is going to change this indisputable reality. At the same time, I said that we did take up this matter. We did do a strong démarche with the Chinese side, both in Beijing and in Delhi, when the incident took place. Arbitrary actions by China, as the one that we referred to, that I referred to, involving an Indian citizen from Arunachal Pradesh, are most unhelpful towards efforts being made by both sides to build mutual trust and understanding and gradually move towards normalization of bilateral relations.
And responding to Pakistan's remarks on the Ram Temple flag hoisting, MEA spokesperson said India rejects them, stressing that a nation with a record of bigotry, repression and minority mistreatment like Pakistan has no moral authority to lecture others.
Pakistan, we have seen the reported remarks and reject them with the contempt they deserve. As a country with a deeply stained record of bigotry, repression and systemic mistreatment of its minorities, Pakistan has no moral standing to lecture others. Rather than delivering hypocritical homilies, Pakistan would do better to turn its gaze inwards and focus on its own abysmal human rights records.
And speaking on the recent visit of Afghan Minister of Industry and Commerce Alhaj Nuruddin Azizi to India, MEA spokesperson highlighted that India and Afghanistan have agreed to launch air freight corridor linking Kabul with Delhi and Amritsar to enhance bilateral trade and connectivity.
During the visit, air freight corridor between Kabul and Delhi and Kabul and Amritsar sectors, it was agreed to launch and initiate. It was also agreed that both sides will reactivate joint working group on trade, commerce and investment, as also they will depute commercial representatives in the respective embassies.
All right, time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. GRAP Stage 3 curbs revoked in Delhi NCR amid slight improvement in air quality. Aadhaar body deactivates over 2 crore cards of dead individuals. And we'll get you updates on 56th India International Film Festival. Film Khoya Paya receives positive response.
For the longest time, we treated the Earth's resources as endless. But now the real challenge is to rethink how we use what we already have. Because how we manage the environment's resources will dictate our chances of survival.
He applied finely crushed basalt rock on 2 of his 4 fields and says the difference is clear to see.
It's like a window of opportunity. For every hour we are working with this project.
The pumped groundwater is first filtered. Then it goes into a tank and is filtered again. After that, it is collected in this tank where people can access it.
We have been making handicrafts from banana plants for quite some time now. Currently, we produce around 30 products.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran?
The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. India's indigenously designed and built stealth frigate, Indian naval ship Sahyadri, on Wednesday arrived in Manila, Philippines as part of its operational deployment in Indo-Pacific, underscoring India's commitment to enhancing maritime cooperation in the region. The visit follows the completion of multilateral and bilateral naval exercises, including Malabar 2025, OSINDEX 2025, JMX 25, and a maiden bilateral exercise with the Republic of Korea Navy. Prior to its port call in Manila, INS Sahyadri conducted joint drills with the Philippine Navy, focusing on tactical communications, navigation and maneuvering, visit board, search and seizure operations and flying operations to refine mutual professional understanding. The deployment of INS Sahyadri highlights India's growing naval cooperation with the Philippines. It reflects New Delhi's commitment to promoting peace, security and stability in Indo-Pacific, aligned with India's Act East policy and the vision of Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region. A bust of B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect of India's constitution, was unveiled at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris on the occasion of Constitution Day on Wednesday. The bust was unveiled by Vishal V. Sharma, ambassador and permanent representative of India to UNESCO, in the presence of UNESCO Director General Khalid Al-Ennani. Prime Minister Modi, in a social media post, described the unveiling of Ambedkar's bust at the UNESCO headquarters as a fitting tribute to the architect of India's constitution. The unveiling ceremony, which coincided with India's Constitution Day, was also a symbolic reaffirmation of shared commitments to human dignity, aligning with UNESCO's mission in education and cultural advancement. All right, updates on 56th India International Film Festival now. The Indian panorama film Khoya Paya received a lot of positive response from the visitors at IFE. We had an exclusive conversation with the star Seema Biswas, who talked about the film that focuses on neglected old parents. Take a listen.
You would remember Poolam Devi's Seema Biswas? Well, Seema Biswas is back again at the 56th edition of IFE with her upcoming film Khoya Paya. Shot in Mahakumbh, Khoya Paya talks about the sensitivities related to old age parents. We had a word with the legendary actress Khoya Paya and interacted her about the subject of the film, her experience so far, and what more is she expecting from India and especially from IFE. And we have with us the star cast of Khoya Paya and the celebrated actor here, Miss Seema Biswas. First of all, many congratulations on yet another film, ma'am. From Poolam Devi to a lost mother in Khoya Paya, how do you do the transitioning?
It's time gap, years back, and we are an actor, so switch on, switch off. But for me, like next year, if I born, so I would like to born as an actor only, because it's such an interesting profession, like living with so many variety of roles and, put everything in it, like your heart and soul and mind and everything. So it's an interesting journey for me overall, so, and never ending. I don't know.
And once again, it brings forth a very important topic, which is neglecting your old parents. Why IFFI becomes a very important platform to put forth such important social topics?
So sad for me, like focusing on education, focusing on health issue, those are important for India. Like 70, more than 70% of Indian, they are below poverty or below education, and instead of that we had to focus on that, love your parents, respect your parents, and if he is spending money and have to spend money for it, but for me, like requesting those people, just youngsters, please abhi to jaag jao and प्यार करो, सिर्फ अपने parents नहीं, old age anybody, just care for them. Old age home itself is shame on us. For me, old age home क्यों? वो लोग जवानी में अगर उनका अपना घर था तो बुढ़ापे में कहीं और एक ओल्ड एज होम में क्यों जाना पड़ता है? So no doubt IFFI, thanks to IFFI, that reminding those people that don't do this, respect old people. So hope Janta jaag jayenge.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So there you heard the legendary actor Seema Biswas talking about her film Khoya Paya. With camera person Senthil, this is Sapika reporting for DD India from Goa.
And IFFI premiered the super-duper hit film Doordarshan that has already crossed the 200 crore rupees mark at the box office. DD India's Deepika got in conversation with the director who told about his experience directing a Mohanlal film. Take a listen.
IFFI had a special premiere of the film Doordarshan starring Mohanlal. We had a word with the director of the film who spoke about his experience shooting with the legend, the emotion, Mohanlal. He also shared very exclusive conversations he had with Mohanlal on the set and a lot more. Let's take a listen to them. And we have with us the celebrated director, Tarun Murthy, who's come up with yet another blockbuster film. The film has once again entered the 200 crore box office mark. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
When we talk about, such big films, because you've been making such big films, and especially with big stars, because you talk that Mohanlal is another emotion and another emotional element of the film. What goes behind your mind when you plan such big films? Because the added pressure also tends to add that pressure somewhere, that emotional element and that factor of Mohanlal.
Actually, it's there. When I was start the shoot, during that day I can't able to sleep. I'm very excited. I'm overthinking how can I handle this kind of superstar on the set. I get confused. Can I do it? Can I run away from it? I had that kind of thoughts in my mind. But on a day before we start the shoot, around 2-3 days back, I had a meeting with Mohanlal sir. He told me that, Tarun, I loved your films. I loved your way of filmmaking. I heard so many things from your colleagues, so many things from technicians, actors. Don't change that world for me. Please bring me to that world. That changed the whole perspectives. That relieves me more, and I get a clear clarity on what I am going to do. Then rest is history.
And when we talk about, making such blockbuster films which are already crossing the 100 crore box office mark, what is, because many of the youngsters would also be listening to you, what is that mantra that you always follow? Because most of your films are really super hits.
The one and only reason is we are very rooted to our emotions. What I already mentioned, more than the magnanimous visuals, the fight, masala, dance, etc., etc., we are more concerned about emotions and human lives. That may be the main reason for the big success of these kind of movies. One person asked me a question that a kind of pan-India. I think pan-India is a very wrongly interpreted terms in nowadays. Pan-India, international are the kind of time if we are more local to our work, more rooted to our work, more rooted to a nation, our region, then it became pan-Indian. It's not by bringing so many artists from so other countries, bringing so many technicians from other states. It's not became pan-Indian. When we can say it as pan-Indian are more rooted films from our own states. Uh, our films get internationally acclaimed whenever we are very rooted with the emotions. I think more than formulas, we need to create our own formulas. That may be the reason.
And also, when this news came out that the film will be screened at the 56th edition of FIFI, we had a different separate tweet from Mohanlal sir as well, and he was excited about it. Why do you think FIFI becomes so important?
Because we had a feel that this is a kind of, we are getting a national award. Because 20 good films from all over India were selected in Indian Panorama. From the state, from Kerala, we are having 3 movies from here. ARM, then Circuit and Tudarum. All are commercially very good. They collected, ARM already collected around 100 CR plus. Circuit also collected very good over there. Tudarum is around 275. So I'm not telling the numbers, but the kind of reception we are getting from Kerala, it's inspiring to make good movies. That's something special. We are having a very good film culture over there. I think what Korean movies done around 10 years back, that's what Malayalam movies were doing for the whole world right now. That's great. That's great. That's very inspiring for us. Whenever the audience are getting good reviews, they were telling good reviews, they were telling us to make this kind of movie, go and experiment, go and do different formalities, use super actors, use good combinations. That's very special. We Malayalis are like that.
What next Tarun Murthy has in store for the audiences?
I'm having a commitment with Faz Fasil. I'm very excited. After Mohanlal, I'm doing a movie with Faz Fasil, who already called us the next Mohanlal in Indian cinema. So I'm excited. I'm doing a movie named Torpedo with Fahad, and my writer is Binu Papu, who is an actor in Tudarum. And also I committed a movie named Operation Cambodia. It's a sequel for my debut movie, Operation Java. It was acted by Prithviraj. So both are very exciting projects. And also I am looking for some very good script for Rajaputra today, a Mohanlal movie also.
Tourists gear up as elephant safaris resume in Corbett Tiger Reserves, Dekala and Bijrani zones, offering a thrilling wildlife experience this holiday season. Elephant safaris in these zones of Corbett Tiger Reserve will restart in the first week of December. Dekala will have 2 elephants on 2 routes, Bijrani 1 elephant on 2 routes with 2-hour morning and evening shifts for tourists. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. The Commission for Air Quality Management has revoked the restrictions under Stage 3 of Graded Response Action Plan in Delhi NCR. Curbs under the first and second stage of GRAP will be intensified in the capital and its surrounding areas. The air quality index in Delhi has shown gradual improvement over the past few days and was recorded at 327. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari along with Gujarat CM Bhupendra Patel inspected the under construction 6-lane Shamlaji Mota Chiloda stretch of NH48. He reviewed key structures and called for faster completion of pending work. He also directed action against delays and emphasized road safety and smooth travel quality. UIDAI has deactivated over 2 crore Aadhaar IDs of deceased people as part of a routine cleanup to prevent misuse for fake accounts, ghost pensions and other frauds. The verification process uses death records and state inputs, with rare wrongful deactivations easily reversible through biometric authentication. And today marks the final day of the India International Trade Fair, drawing crowds for last-minute shopping, exhibitions and pavilions showcasing innovation, handicrafts and global trade participation. Organizers expect a busy day as attendees make the most of last-minute shopping, networking opportunities and cultural displays before the fair concludes. Time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. Peru sentences ex-President Rick Zara to 14 years in prison for corruption. Guinea-Bissau military officers declare taking total control of the country. And 33 die as floods ravage Thailand and Malaysia.
geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
How much of India's democracy is really a British leftover?
It is outrageous to suggest that the British have any reason to applaud themselves that India is a democracy at the end of 200 years of colonial oppression. Those who demanded democracy were ruthlessly suppressed, arrested, beaten brutally, killed in many cases. There are very many countries that at different times in different ways became democratic without having to go through the great blessing of being oppressed, enslaved, and colonized.
Welcome to Siliguri and Darjeeling.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching the India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity campus will also unveil its first orbital rocket Vikram 1 with capability to launch satellites to orbit. India's Defence Minister to co-chair the third India-Indonesia Defence Ministers dialogue with his Indonesian counterpart in New Delhi, focus on regional security and bilateral defence collaboration. Death toll in massive Hong Kong apartment fire rises to 44. Hundreds more remain unaccounted. 3 suspects arrested. Efforts on war footing to tackle the blaze. And US President Trump calls shooting of 2 National Guard troops an act of terror. Orders to deploy 500 additional troops. Suspect taken into custody. And India ranked 6th in the 2025 Deaflympics in Tokyo, his best ever performance, winning a total of 20 medals. Medals include 9 gold, 7 silver and 4 bronze. And latest in the US shooting, President Donald Trump called it an act of terror. He also mentioned that the suspect has been identified and believed to have entered into the US territory from Afghanistan in 2021. Trump called for his government to re-examine Afghan immigrants who entered the United States during the former President Joe Biden's administration. Earlier on Wednesday, 2 US National Guard soldiers were shot near the White House in Washington. The shootings took place at the Farragut West Metro Station, 2 blocks from the White House, and in mid-afternoon when the streets and nearby businesses were packed. FBI Director Kash Patel said both soldiers, part of a militarized anti-crime deployment around the United States ordered by Trump, were in critical condition. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser called it a targeted shooting by a single gunman. Earlier, in a social media post, Trump called the suspected shooter an animal who would pay a very steep price and praised the National Guard. J.D. Vance addressed troops urging prayers for the National Guardsmen and said the motive is unknown for shooting of Guardsmen.
Before we get started, on a somber note, we had, and some of you may have seen this on your phones or on social media, but apparently there was a shooting outside the White House just a couple of hours ago. And we're still learning everything. We still don't know the motive. There's a lot that we haven't yet figured out. But what we do know is that a couple of National Guardsmen were injured in the line of duty.
And in the wake of Wednesday's shooting, Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday that President Donald Trump has asked for 500 additional troops to be deployed in Washington, D.C.
President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong.
All right, India's Akshay Dongre has been tracking this story. He is joining us live from Delhi for more details on this. Akshay, President Trump has termed this an act of terror and ordered 500 additional troops to be deployed. Any details on what measures are being taken on the ground?
Well, as of now, what we have heard from the U.S. administration is clearly additional troops, National Guards to be deployed. 500 is the figure that has been given, but Abhishek, this also hints out to a larger, number of measures that are going to be taken. That is going to, create an entire system now in place to vet the illegal immigrants who have entered into the U.S. And, right now the administration is talking about vetting each and every single, alien from Afghanistan that has illegally arrived in the U.S. But these measures are not only going to be limited to Afghan nationals only in the longer term. because the kind of incident that has taken place is quite serious in nature, and from anything that we have learned from the track record of Trump administration, this is going to go much larger than this, reaching out to a much stricter immigration policy as far as illegal immigrants are concerned, and it is going to stiffen the resolve of the US administration in ensuring that the kind of policies, the kind of sentiments there were already against the illegal immigrants are going to become even more difficult for the people who have entered into the US, and we can expect larger number of measures being taken against illegal immigrants across the country, against all the nationalities in the larger picture.
Yes, Akshay, and what more details have emerged so far regarding the suspect who has been taken into custody? Apart from that he is an Afghan, he entered US in 2021.
Well, even the US Vice President has, limited himself to only certain details, as long as all the information, the motive of the crime and everything else is not confirmed. So that is the information that even we have. That it was an Afghan national, according to reports, has been taken into custody, entered into the US illegally in 2021, and that is perhaps the reason why the Trump administration has pinned the blame on the Biden administration for allowing this to happen. But now it remains to be seen that what are the measures the Trump administration is going to take as far as the immigration policy is concerned, and all of these things that have come to light in the recent months as far as crimes by the illegal immigrants are concerned.
Absolutely. And last question before we leave you, Akshay, what do we know about the ongoing investigation? Any details and what official statements have been made so far?
Well, the official statement, first of all, it was directly from Donald Trump, where he called the suspect who has, shot the National Guardsman as an animal. He has spoken about stricter measures that are going to be taken. He has pinned the blame on the Biden administration, but at the same time, the FBI and other investigative agencies are going full swing as far as the investigation is concerned. The details, again, are being kept, under the wraps, because this is hinting to a larger sort of measures that are going to be taken very soon as far as the immigration policy in the US is concerned.
All right, Akshay, thank you for the timing. But yes, keep tracking this. We'll be taking updates from you. US President Donald Trump described the National Guard shooting in Washington, D.C. as an act of terror and a crime against humanity. Addressing the nation following the attack on National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C., he blamed former President Joe Biden for allowing the suspect into the country, claiming the individual arrived from Afghanistan during the 2021 airlift.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity.
And US President Donald Trump announced that South Africa will not be invited to take part in next year's G20 summit in Florida after Washington boycotted the Leaders Summit in Johannesburg last week, which the African nation called a punitive measure against it. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's office called Trump's post regrettable. Ramaphosa said that since the US delegation was not present at the summit last week, instruments of the G20 presidency were duly handed over to US Embassy official at the headquarters of South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation. And since taking office for a second time in January, Trump has been critical of the South African government's domestic and foreign policies. Trump has repeatedly alleged that South Africa's black majority government persecutes its white minority and that there was a genocide of white farmers in the country, claims that have been widely discredited. In a White House meeting in May, Trump confronted South Africa's leader with false claims of white genocide. Trump said on Wednesday that his administration was going to stop all payments and subsidies to South Africa effective immediately. Trump signed an executive order in February to cut financial assistance for South Africa, citing disapproval of his land policy and of his genocide case at the International Court of Justice against Washington's ally, Israel. Moving on, U.S. military aircraft were seen on Wednesday at the former Roosevelt Roads Naval Base in Puerto Rico in what appeared to be a show of force as Washington prepares for a new phase of Venezuela-related operations. On November 24, the United States top military officer and U.S. President Donald Trump's military advisor Dan Kane traveled to Puerto Rico as Washington continues one of its largest naval deployments in the Caribbean in decades, escalating tensions with Venezuela over alleged anti-drug operations. Kane also met with troops stationed in Puerto Rico and aboard a Navy warship in regional waters. Reports of possible moves have intensified in recent weeks as the U.S. military positions assets closer to Venezuela amid deteriorating relations with President Nicolas Maduro's government. And U.S. immigration authorities have detained the mother of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's nephew, a sign of the wide reach of President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. A U.S. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said in a statement that immigration authorities had arrested the woman Brazilian national Bruna Caroline Ferreira but declined to provide the exact circumstances. Ferreira had been taken into custody in River, Massachusetts, near Boston. DHS said Ferreira had entered the U.S. on a tourist visa and failed to depart, but her attorney, Jeffrey Rubin, said she was pursuing permanent residence and had previously had protection from deportation under a program for immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. A Peruvian court on Wednesday sentenced former President Martin Vizcarra to 14 years in prison after finding him guilty of taking bribes years before he took office, adding to a list of former leaders jailed for corruption. According to the verdict, Vizcarra accepted bribes equivalent to $676,000 from construction firms in exchange for public works contracts while serving as governor of the southern Moquegua region from 2011 to 2014. Throughout the trial, which began last October, Vizcarra denied the charges, claiming he was a victim of political persecution. He came to power in 2018 after his predecessor resigned and was ousted 2 years later by Congress amid graft investigations. 3 other former presidents are also in jail. Alejandro Toledo and Ollanta Humala are both serving time for corruption convictions. Pedro Castillo is being held while on rebellion charges. Updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russia said Wednesday that ongoing talks to end the conflict in Ukraine were serious after earlier welcoming parts of a new U.S. plan to halt Russia-Ukraine crisis. Russian officials cautioned that an agreement remained distant, with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff expected in Moscow next week for more discussions. In televised comments, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the negotiations were ongoing and the process is serious. Washington has not released the updated plan, which President Donald Trump described as a refined version of an earlier 28-point outline dismissed by Kiev and European governments as overly favorable to Moscow. Trump and U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, who has met Russian representatives, signaled cautious optimism. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said the draft needed deeper evaluation, noting that some points were positive while others required expert review. And the European Parliament on Wednesday agreed on a resolution which called for a default minimum age of 16 on social media to ensure age-appropriate online engagement. The draft calls for a harmonized European digital age limit of 13, under which no minor could access social media platforms, and an age limit of 13 for video sharing services and AI companions. Parliament's resolution also called for a ban on loot boxes, virtual items that can be won or bought with real money, and on engagement-based recommender algorithms for minors, as well as legislation to require age-appropriate content design. The Parliament resolution is not legally binding and does not set policy. Military officials in Guinea-Bissau said they had seized total control of the coup-prone West African country Wednesday, arresting its president, closing its borders and suspending its electoral process 3 days after general elections. Earlier, heavy gunfire erupted near the presidential palace as soldiers secured key access roads. General Dennis Nkanha said a joint command of all armed forces would govern the country until further notice. Mbalo, considered the front-runner for re-election, was being held at military headquarters along with the Chief of Staff and the Interior Minister. Officials said the army claimed it had uncovered a destabilization plot involving local drug traffickers and illicit weapons. The military halted the electoral process, shut media outlets, imposed a curfew and emptied Bissau's streets.
Until the entire situation is duly clarified and conditions are restored for a full return to constitutional normality, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has decided to immediately remove the President of the Republic, close until further notice all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, suspend until further notice the activities of all media outlets, immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process, close land and maritime borders and the national airspace, establish a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
And now updates on Hong Kong fire. Firefighters were still dousing a devastating fire on Thursday, which ripped through a Hong Kong high-rise complex, killing at least 44 people and leaving hundreds missing, according to the authorities. The inferno, the financial hub's worst in decades, took hold on Wednesday afternoon in an 8-building housing estate with 2,000 apartments and sent shockwaves through the city, which has some of the world's most densely populated and tallest residential blocks. According to the police, 3 men were arrested in connection with the fire after flammable materials left during maintenance work caused the blaze to spread rapidly beyond control. And in Thailand, 3 days of torrential rain dumped record volumes Thailand's southern commercial hub on Hat Yai, flooding hospitals and stranding thousands on rooftops. Thai rescue workers waded through floodwater under the lights of emergency vehicles on Wednesday night, evacuating people. Thailand airlifted patients and flew critical supplies, including oxygen tanks, into the submerged southern city as the death toll climbed to 33. The Thai military has mobilized boats, helicopters and even its lone aircraft carrier to deliver supplies and evacuate the sick. Floods have swept through 9 Thai provinces and 8 states in neighboring Malaysia for the second successive year, prompting both countries to evacuate nearly 50,000 people. Still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. Global stocks edge higher and Wall Street climbs on growing hopes for lowest interest rates.
For the longest time, we treated the Earth's resources as endless. But now the real challenge is to rethink how we use what we already have. Because how we manage the environment's resources will dictate our chances of survival.
He applied finely crushed basalt rock on 2 of his 4 fields and says the difference is clear to see.
It's like a window of opportunity. For every hour we are working with this project.
The pumped groundwater is first filtered. Then it goes into a tank and is filtered again. After that, it is collected in this tank where people can access it.
We have been making handicrafts from banana plants for quite some time now. Currently, we produce around 30 products.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahaj and some more stories. Business updates now. Global stocks mostly rose on Wednesday, with Wall Street equities gaining on hopes of lower interest rates, while the British pound advanced on the government's unveiling of a new budget. US equities rose for a 3rd straight day as momentum builds following comments in recent days from Federal Reserve officials signaling another potential interest rate cut next month. All 3 major US indices climbed again, led by the tech-rich Nasdaq, which rose 0.8%. In Europe, London stocks advanced and the pound pushed higher as the centre-left Labour government delivered a tax-raising budget aimed at curbing debt and funding public services. The yield on UK 10-year government bonds dipped, a sign that investors retain confidence in Finance Minister Rachel Reeves having control over public finances. An India Global Forum has launched a $250 million fund to support high-potential Indian consumer and industrial brands in expanding to global markets, positioning Dubai as the hub for their international growth. Announced at IGF Middle East 2025, the initiative marks a new era of India-UAE collaboration, and Dubai's connectivity and IGF's networks will help Indian companies scale across the Middle East, Africa, Europe and beyond. The program integrates IGF's business, government and innovation networks with Dubai's logistics ecosystem through DP World. India's ambassador to the UAE, Dr. Deepak Mittal, said that India and the UAE are well positioned to navigate an uncertain global environment. He highlighted that deep political trust, economic complementarities and strong people-to-people ties have reinforced their partnership over the past decade. All right, sports updates now. India delivered an impressive performance at the 25th Summer Deaflympics in Tokyo. Team India finished 6th with a total of 20 medals, including 9 gold, 7 silver and 4 bronze. Ukraine topped the medal table with 100 medals, followed by the USA with 36, while host nation Japan secured 3rd place with 51 medals. Shooter Mahit Sandhu, competing in her first Deaflympics, won 2 gold and 2 silver medals and proudly carried the national flag as India's flag bearer at the closing ceremony. In karate, Loma Swen made history by becoming the first Indian to win a bronze medal. This year's performance marked a significant improvement from the previous Deaflympics in Brazil, where India won 16 medals. And as festive lights glow from Dresden centuries-old Striezel Market to Francis Strasbourg Market towering 30-meter Christmas tree, and even through the regal halls of Windsor Castle, Europe steps into the holiday season with tradition, sparkle and strengthened security. Crowds gather and millions come together to celebrate a time of comfort and joy. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.